So we got our junkyard LS motor on our stand. This one's going in a 64 Chevy when it's all ready to rock. This is an iron block junkyard motor. We put LS1 aluminum heads on it and obviously a Phytech induction system. Right now we're going to go ahead and replace all the factory sensors. It's good to just start from scratch, start with new sensors, and then we're going to take our Phytech wiring harness and go ahead and start plugging things in. So the first sensor we're going to swap out right here is our crank sensor. These come in two different styles. There's 24X and 58X. On these early engines, these are going to be 24X, and it reads off a reluctor wheel that's mounted off the crank. 24X early ones are black. Typically the 58X are gray, so just an easy way to identify those. So here's our new sensor. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out. So we'll put a little oil on that O-ring and it's good to go. And it'll give it a little pop in there. There it is. Up top on the back of these early blocks, you've got two sensors. This is your oil pressure sensor, and this is a cam sensor. This works with the crankshaft sensor to locate both the cam and the crank and to tell the computer things like RPM and what cylinder's at top dead center and that kind of thing. That pulls out, that's what that looks like. This guy, I've already got it loose, and it just spins out. And you can see that this one was damaged. That's exactly why we're doing what we're doing, because you never know the state of your sensors. And if this motor was installed in the truck, this might be kind of difficult to get to with the firewall and all that kind of thing. So we're just making our lives a little simpler by swapping out new stuff. It's cheap insurance. So we're going to swap out these two sensors for new sensors from Duralast. These meet or exceed the OE spec. This guy here is your cam sensor. There's your new cam sensor. This guy here is your oil pressure sensor. You can see from the old one there's something missing. You know, who knows what happened when they pulled it out of the junkyard. They snapped that guy off. So we're going to go ahead and just screw our oil pressure sensor in real quick. I'm going to drop the cam sensor in. Now on these early motors, the cam sensor is up over here where the distributor was in the small block Chevy. But in the later LS3s, LS7s, some of those motors, the cam sensor is actually in the timing cover. So if you got a motor and it's up here, you got an earlier motor or a truck motor. That's the general rule. I'm going to go ahead and tighten that guy down, and those two sensors are good to go. So this is the coolant temp sensor for the ECU, and this basically just reads your water temp. And you can see it's not in terrible shape, but we'll go ahead and put a new one in just in case. So our new sensor comes with a new crush washer, and it also has a connector. Depending on what your what kind of harness you got, it comes with little splice wires. If the connector doesn't mate up to what's on your harness, you can go ahead and just wire it in manually. And there's your new temp sensor. We'll get that guy in there. We're also going to replace our knock sensors. In this motor, they're located in the valley cover. On the later LS motors, there's one in each side of the block. Now, depending on what EFI system you use, you may not even be able to read the knock sensor. Certain aftermarket EFI systems don't use the knock sensors for any information. For our Phytech system, though, they do, which is good because that will give you things like detonation issues and stuff, and it can trigger a limp mode in the computer and save your motor if you have any kind of issues. All right, so we've got our Phytech harness. These are pretty straightforward in that everything's marked and everything is kind of terminated to where it wants to go. So it's really just a matter of kind of figuring out what's what and laying them out. So that's a ground. This injectors, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the obvious ones. Here's coil. Throttle position sensor, that's going to be here. And that's in the throttle body. You got your IAC. That's right here. And if you don't know what these are, I know what they look like, so I know what they are, but you really can't plug one sensor into the other because they just don't work that way. They're all individual. So one of the last pieces to our little LS swap puzzle are these coils and plug wires. We got a set of 8 of them. And as you can see, our engine didn't come with coils or plug wires, so we opted to get this set from Duralast. We still need to get the plates and the mounting fixtures. We're not sure how we're going to do that yet, if we're going to put a different valve cover on there and dress it up, or if we're going to keep it stock. But this pretty much wraps up all the electronics, the sensors, that kind of stuff that needs to be replaced on a motor of unknown heritage. Like I said, we don't know the age, we don't know how many miles this motor has, so it's just a good idea to swap out all this stuff with new. But that pretty much wraps up where we are today. For more information and to follow the build, check out classictruckperformance.com.